Good morning, Secretary. I wanted to ask you about housing. So I noticed you mentioned it in your opening. I imagine you're spending a certain amount of your time on housing. Do you have a broad sense of how often you think about housing?
Senator, I am, though I might add that there's a lot that's going on in the Treasury portfolio. So,
of course,
there is.
So yes, I am, but I also obviously heavily rely upon Housing Group and the Deputy Secretary who's responsible for housing in relation to some of those matters.
So I guess my question is, as Secretary, you do think about, you are involved in housing policy at some level, aren't you?
Sure.
Yeah. Are you aware of the reports today in the paper about the review conducted by Treasury into the governance of Housing Australia?
So, Senator, I am aware of that review. I was made aware of that review, though, only very recently. This is a review that I understand was undertaken, or it was triggered at the end of 2023 and it was undertaken in the early months of 2024. Obviously, I wasn't involved in that review at all, Look, Senator, I'm happy to be as helpful as I can be, but I suggest that questions in relation to the review, the details of the review and how it was conducted or the outcomes might best be handled by Deputy Secretary, Head of Corporate Area, who's responsible for most of this sort of governance reviews when they take place within Treasury.
Okay. Who conducted the review?
So I don't know the name of the person who conducted the review, but I'm sure Ms Anderson will be in a position to provide you with those details.
Okay, but it was an internal review conducted by the Treasury. There wasn't an external reviewer. Senator,
I don't have those details in front of me, so I don't want to mislead. I think corporate area is appearing before this committee this afternoon at 2:10, and they will be well placed to assist you with any of those questions.
Okay, just because there's been a lot of changes to this program. There's parts of Treasury that have been scheduled after dark, which is highly unusual. So I just want to make sure for the record that the questions in relation to this governance and probity review should be directed to Treasury's corporate division.
Correct.
Okay.
Senator, there's an agreed schedule for these processes. It provides plenty of time for the different components that people have an interest in. It's not controversial. Sort of asserting that this is that some of these proceedings occur after the daylight hours end, daylight saving notwithstanding. It's not unusual. We'll be here until 11 o'clock tonight. I'll be here.
Oh, thank you.
The relevant officials.
Thank you.
The relevant officials will be here. There'll be plenty of time to canvass all of these issues, and officials are very keen to answer your questions.
We agree to extend the program by half an hour to 11 o'clock. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Let's see. This is the first bungle of the sort of Ayers appearance in front of this committee is extending the hours.
There are worse ones.
That's all right.
But I'm grateful, Senator Patterson, for you pointing out that it does indeed conclude at 10:30 p.m.
Okay, so that's fine. So
That's right.
So we're very happy to take that direction from you, Secretary. But I do want to ask you about the overall performance of Housing Australia. It has a lot of money that it needs to spend. It has a number of programs it needs to administer. Why was it necessary for the government to appoint an observer to the board of Housing Australia?
So, Senator, Housing Australia, as I think you've pointed out and we've certainly acknowledged, has a very significant role to play in the government's housing policies. Their responsibilities have expanded quite considerably over time. The government has been keen to ensure that we have, or at least, and I think this decision was taken before my time to appoint an observer to the board, but keen to ensure that we had good connections between Treasury Treasury and Housing Australia, and we were kind of well placed to understand how the operations of how Housing Australia was operating. Obviously, that's important for the delivery of all of the programs that Housing Australia is responsible for, and this was one mechanism by which we could both provide reassurance to government,
Right.
but also provide support to Housing Australia in the delivery of their functions.
Okay, so I assume you're seeking, or the government is seeking, reassurance, which is reasonable, because the performance of the agency has not been up to scratch. It hasn't been able to build houses, or it hasn't been able to complete a particular outcome. Is that right?
So, Senator, the Housing Australia Future Fund, sorry, let me step back. There are a range of different programs which Housing Australia has been responsible for administering.
Yeah.
If you wish to go through the details of each of those programs and how they're performing, Housing Group will be absolutely in a position to do that.
Excuse me.
There was some...
Yeah. Sorry, just to clarify the question,
yes.
if you don't mind, Chair. Just, the question is, as the Treasury Secretary, given the Minister has appointed an observer to the board, has that been done because the government broadly is concerned about the performance of the agency?
I think that has been done. My characterisation is that that has been done because this is an important priority for the government, and it's another mechanism for, as I say, to improve the ability for the government to get the confidence around the operation of the agency.
Okay. What sort of updates are you receiving as Treasury Secretary about the operation of the board?
So I meet with the Deputy Secretary in charge of Housing Group every fortnight and are provided with an update on all of their functions.
Okay, so do you meet with the board of HA?
I haven't yet met with the board. I have met with the Chair.
So you have met with the Chair of Housing Australia?
That's correct.
Okay, and I assume you were given an update on the macro performance of the, what do you call it, an agency, body, what do you call it?
At the agency, we had a discussion on all of the responsibilities of the agency and their performance.
Okay, and what was your takeaway from that meeting?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, my takeaway is that the Housing Australia has a very big agenda, has a lot to deliver, and their responsibilities span a number of different programs, and I think that some of the challenges in relation to some of the programs reflect when legislation was actually passed in order to commence the rollout of those programs, but there are other programs which have been effectively run, and take-up has been relatively strong. But I don't think anyone is resiling from the fact that they have a very big agenda.
Okay, thank you. So I guess the primary task of this agency, given the Housing Australia Future Fund mandate, is to build houses, is it not?
They run a number of different programs. I don't have a list in front of me of all of the programs that Housing Australia is responsible for, but they have a number of different programs. They're certainly responsible for the Housing Australia Future Fund. They're responsible for the bond aggregator. They're responsible for the 5% deposit scheme. And I'm sure I've missed some of the programs that they're responsible for, but as I said, Housing Group can walk you through all of those details.
But building houses would be one of the main objectives?
Supporting, both supporting state governments and supporting community housing providers build houses is one of them.
So it's got $10 billion in its kitty. It's been operating for over 2 years now. How many has it been able to build?
So, Senator, I think these questions, if I will have the officials who will have all of those answers to these questions available to answer these questions when Housing Group appears before estimates this evening, and they will be able to take you through all of those details.
They haven't given you a macro position of how many it's been able to build?
So within this section of the estimates hearing, if you would like us to talk more broadly about what's happening within the housing market, we are absolutely comfortable to do that. I have, at a very high level, an understanding of the number of houses or dwellings which have been supported through the Housing Australia Future Fund in terms of those that have either been constructed or are under contract. But I don't want to mislead the committee and not provide detail, with the sort of the depth that the officials in Housing Group will be able to.
Okay, well maybe, given your suggestion that we direct some of these questions about the performance of the agency to corporate, would it be possible for corporate and housing to appear at the same time so we can work through these questions properly?
Chair, we've got the agreed program.
I'm just asking the Secretary if that's possible from a resourcing point of view.
Point of order.
Well, anything's possible, Senator Bragg, but there's an agreed program.
Correct.
Well, I'm just worried we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of these murky issues.
If you want to agitate, alternative approaches to the program, there's weeks and months of potential discussions prior to hearings. If this isn't a place for a scheduling discussion. If you want to have it, I'm sure Senator Hume and Senator Darmanin will be delighted to re-engage about future hearings and what happens at 9:45 and what happens at 10:05. Like that, that discussion
fine.
can
so
go
this
on.
I understand.
But we're not rearranging the thing on the fly.
So you want me to ask questions about the Housing Australia housing
to
agenda,
the housing officials,
to the corporate division, and then you want me to come back later and then ask the housing division about housing issues. So I'm just concerned it's going to get very murky very quickly. We're trying to get to the bottom of these issues.
I'm sure you can bring precision and clarity to your questions, Senator Bragg, and we'll endeavour to do the same in our answers.
Okay, so do you have, as the Treasury Secretary, do you consider the quality of the spending that's undertaken by Housing Australia? It's got $10 billion of taxpayer funds. It is, as you say, apparently building some houses. It's also acquiring houses. There are reports on the weekend that it's paying up to $1.3 million in some cases to build houses. Now, the average build cost is more like $450,000, so it appears the taxpayers are spending, in some cases, over $1 million to build a house. Do you have oversight in any way of the quality of spending from Housing Australia?
Senator, I think it's most appropriate that these questions are asked of the officials in Housing Group, who will have all of these details for you. As I said at the outset, I don't think that anyone is denying that this is, that it is a significant challenge to meet the government's commitments around, increasing the stock of social and affordable housing, which is what the objective of the Housing Australia Future Fund is. It always takes time to make agreements, agree contracts with entities like community housing providers to deliver these houses. There's no question that some of the challenges which flowed from increases in construction costs towards the end of the COVID period have made it more expensive to build houses. All of that has made it more challenging.
Senator Bragg, you're at 15 minutes.
Can I ask one final question?
Sure.
Just to finish my block. So I guess my final question is, thank you, Chair, for your indulgence, is just, you said before that you had some high-level knowledge of how many houses had been built. You then said just now that you didn't have any oversight of how the expenditure was operating from Housing Australia. They have $10 billion. So, I'm just wondering, what do you know about the operation of this agency?
Senator, you really You are putting words in the mouth of the Secretary that don't come close to her efforts to answer your questions that everybody acknowledges would be more sensibly put in the relevant section of the proceedings. As the Secretary said, this is a government that tries to do hard things. It is a hard thing to re-energise Australia's housing sector and to produce affordable housing. The previous government produced 373 affordable homes over the 9 years of its carriage of these issues. We have built many times that over the course of the last 24 months or so that we have been engaged in this task. We've got a lot more to build. To work with the private sector to meet these targets that are in the national interest. We're going to shoulder behind the wheel, and we'll be delighted to answer more detailed questions about housing when the right officials can come to the table and engage with you on the detail, which I'm sure you'll try and do.
Well, Chair, that wasn't my question. My question was to the Secretary about the level of knowledge about the overall expenditure.
I think the Secretary has answered that a couple of times now in different ways and directed you to later in the program. So we might rotate the call now. I did neglect to table